There are people in countries all around the globe who sit back and laugh at Americans and their apparent lack of geographical and general knowledge of the world around them. The irony is that most of us laughing have a similar ignorance. A reason why Americans are singled out is due to Hollywood. We here in Australia, for example, have grown up on American television and movies, giving most of us a good understanding of the USA, her history, geography and culture. The problem is that we then develop an expectation that Americans should have the same understanding of Australia. Obviously this is an unreasonable expectation, as the US doesn't import much Australian television, and therefore isn't exposed to our culture as we are to theirs. This is unfortunate, as we have made some great television over the years. For example, we have this long-running show in Australia called Neighbours, and after actually watching an episode the other night, I was left in stitches. One of the characters in the show, a caring young mum, was being held hostage in a cabin in the middle of nowhere. And what can only be described as hilarious, she somehow thought a kid was, I don't know, Lassie or something, and sent this dopey-looking 2-year-old off into the bush by itself to fetch help. What? It was a plot and not a skit. Bloody hell. Well, there's this new police parody called City Homicide, where in inspired comic genius they've cast this dorky-looking reject from Neighbours, a has-been stand-up comedian, and an ageing preschool television show presenter as tough razor-edge coppers who... What? It's supposed to be a drama, not a comedy. But I pissed myself laughing when... You're joking. Okay then, as it's highly unlikely that America will ever import our shows, I better use this video to set you yanks straight on a few things about Australia. I don't care how it's spelt, Australians are Aussies, not Aussies. If you still find yourself struggling with this, then just pretend Dorothy and Toto landed on a witch just outside of Sydney. The large flightless bird native to Australia is called an emu, not an emu. I don't know what an emu is. It sounds like a description of a noise that a cow would make after taking ecstasy. Australia and Austria are two totally different countries. Australia is in the southern hemisphere, hence down under, while Austria is smack bang in the middle of Europe. Again, if you're still struggling, if Hitler was born in Australia, his first name would have probably been Bruce, and any thoughts of creating a master race wouldn't have made it past the local pub. In fact, the only Australian who ever had serious thoughts of world domination was forced to move to America and adopt US citizenship. Why? It had nothing to do with the US media ownership laws, it was because no one here took him seriously. Rupert, what kind of puff to name's that, mate? Koalas are just that, koalas. They're not koala bears. However, koalas are sometimes mistaken for drop bears, legendary outback creatures that hide high in the branches and drop down on unsuspecting prey as they pass below. Although koalas have been known to do similar, it's not a hunting or an aggressive act. It is speculated that after eating fermented eucalyptus leaves, male koalas sometimes mistake the neatly parted hair of a person passing below as a presenting female and drop down to mate. This is why you should always wear a hat in the Australian bush. And that's another thing. Don't be put off visiting Australia just because of our wildlife. We may have the world's biggest and deadliest crocodiles, the world's deadliest snakes, the world's deadliest spider, the world's deadliest jellyfish, the world's deadliest octopus, the world's deadliest shark, the world's deadliest fish, and dingoes that take the occasional kid. But realistically, the chances are you probably won't encounter any of these potential killers. Even though for some obscure reason we appear irrationally proud of our deadly fauna, most Australians too are shit scared of these things. Although we may hesitate to dispel any perceptions, we're definitely not a nation of Steve Irwins. The crocodile hunter may have spent his life trying to educate us and lessen our phobias, but all he managed to achieve is make us shit scared of stingrays as well. Blah! But in all honesty, the biggest wildlife danger you may encounter when visiting Australia will be the kangaroo. Not because of its ability to disembowel, it's because they have less road sense than an Asian diplomat. No matter your driving skill, the stealthy, agile but stupid roo will usually find its way through your windscreen. In fact, vehicle accidents are the biggest killer of visitors to Australia. which is hardly surprising as, because of the size of the place, any fair dinkum tourist would have to spend a fair time on the road. And because Australia is so sparsely populated, there are a limited amount of routes to get from one place to another. Speaking of routes, Americans should think twice before using the word route over here in the context of describing their support for something. In Australia, root means to have sex with, so as you can see, if an American arrives at a sporting event proclaiming they wish to root for a certain team, they may get more than they bargained for. Another clash of colloquialisms is the word fanny. As in Australia, this refers to the vagina. So even though an innocent pat on the fanny may just be inappropriate in the USA, over here it could land you on the sexual offenders register. And finally, Americans should refrain from attempting to imitate the Australian accent, especially the greeting, "G'day mate," as these usually clumsy attempts automatically set off the internal wanker alert instinctive to most Australians. To put this in perspective, it's the same as how an American must feel when they see an Aussie kid attempting the gangster rap look.